What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk. We're recording this on Sunday, June 22nd, to discuss RIFC's 2-0 USL Championship home dud on fireworks night versus Sacramento Republic. Just a reminder, each episode is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on our channel and smash that like button on the video as it helps more people find the channel. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you listen on one of those, we'd really appreciate it if you took a minute to leave us a 5-star rating and a short review as it helps more people find our podcast. One last plug, if you're not already using the RIFC Club Collector app, go enter the code TIDETALK25, all lowercase, all one word, to get an exclusive pack added to your collection today. Ryan, you kicked my ass in that this weekend, but I still have my 400 plus point buffer at the top, so I'll hold on to that glory. But cozy up, crack a bear. Let's dive into this one. It's good to be joined by my naked face brethren right now, Mr. Ryan Healy, who is continent hopping or country hopping, I should say, in Europe. Talk about the vacay, because we've got nothing else to really talk about in this one.
Yeah, I mean, should we just go right to the slides here?
The people want slides. So
yeah, I mean,
let's hit it.
So we're gonna do an hour on my trip. So yep. So on the left here, you see it's me with the beer. You'll see it's a common theme on the right. It's my wife with a beer. Saw this really cool espresso machine in Germany somewhere. Delicious espresso there. So not really anything else to talk about tonight in terms of other slides. So just want to make sure we gave the people what they want here.
Ooh, Scott called you Euro Ryan. I wonder who would win in a fight, Euro Ryan or Booth Ryan.
I don't know if Booth Ryan would be able to get in the ring, I think, is the issue.
Again, I will always say this, people who listen to just the podcast version of this, those numbers are actually shrinking, which is good because our YouTube numbers are actually going up. I think the YouTube is more entertaining because of the loaded graphics we give you throughout this one, so we can really kind of go from there. But what was your favorite country in Europe, Ryan, that you visited on this trip? I should say
it's a good one.
Was the Hungarian come?
Yeah, Unicum was good. I did like Budapest a lot. That was very fun. I didn't realize before the trip that we were going to spend most of our time in Austria, which I probably would have never thought about going to, which was very cool. And then, ending in Germany, a lot of good history there. Well, not good history, bad history. But, wow.
There goes our rating.
Yeah, boom. Oop. All right. A lot of history there and a lot of, stuff going on. But great beer, great food. Really nice trip with some great people. So.
Yeah, good stuff. But
please, Jesus.
Oh, man, the chat is going to be through the roof on this one. EU Ryan, as Scott says. So you did not make the match live last night. You had a migraine. Was your migraine worse before or after the match?
Yeah, the match didn't help at all. I would say my favorite moment, I did have the match was tough to watch. And I know we all suffered through it, but I did have one true laugh out loud, joyous moment. And that was towards the 80th minute, the ball goes out of play on the sideline, and the camera kind of cuts back in 2:05, and all of a sudden I see Matt Hands just perfectly in frame of the camera whip out his phone, and from what I have,
he's Riptide reporting.
Oh, I know it's the what the WordPress app looks like, and he's just hacking away on there, and that was absolutely a real cherry on top of just a truly shit match and shit night. So migraine did not get better throughout the match, but shout out to the boys for that one.
Matt is here. He loves it. It's good stuff.
It genuinely, I think it might be my favorite moment of the season so far. It was laugh out loud funny.
I did hear from multiple people that there were a ton of Matt Hands moments and Andrew Quadros moments on the live broadcast. So big shout out, Tide Talk representing on the live broadcast.
Well, now I'm nervous because I sit over there and I'm like, I gotta be prepared all game.
I think it might have been because you weren't there.
That's fair. Yeah, they knew where the camera should be.
Fair enough. We've got our friend William Lamb from Sacramento in the chat tonight. He's glad your vacation was a success. Unfortunately, work commitments, we were not able to see him. Although we did see a person wearing a bear costume that walked through M7 and then did the march with us. It was pretty impressive. And then I saw another couple or two with Sac Republic jerseys on, walking the stadium, going on through that. And one thing I will say, as we had the summer of the no new RIFC kits, I think kit for kit, Sac Republic has the best pairing of kits in the USL Championship. They've got that lovely sash kit that they wore against us, and blanked us with it. And then they've got that the red with the stripes that I think is just absolutely class. I would say that might be the best kit in the USL Championship. I know you and I are very similar in this, where we love to see what teams put out for kids, for shirts and training wear, even, and I just think the people at Sac Republic have done a great job, and RIFC could take notes as far on that front.
Yeah, no, yeah, I remember we almost did like a tier. Actually, this could double pivot if you're listening. Which
tier maker,
yeah, this could be a good tier maker in the future. But yeah, I know we talked a lot about kits in the preseason here, and yeah, Sac Republic, they definitely did a good job. They did a really good job. Like, they lightly updated their logo, their crest, and while it was like very minimal one, it was like, it's very nice,
weathered, like more like textural, I guess you would say to it.
So overall, I mean, it's, I know we always talk about there's a lot of clubs in this league that like we can aspire to be, and I think Sacramento is definitely one of them for sure.
I will say this, and we'll talk about them a little bit later on, but we played Portland on Friday, and they had their big tattoo event for Hearts of Pine.
I can't.
Oh my God, that was beyond cool. Like, RFC needs to take notes as far as that. There was one really cool, I think it was an arm tattoo posted of Moxie, and I think Graham went and got it the other night. So if you know my son Graham, he loved Moxie while we were at Lewiston High School, and he might actually have that one tattooed on his left butt cheek. I don't know, could be. Sounds good for Graham. But let's dive into the action on this one. I thought we were just going to waffle all night, but yeah. I was trying to filibuster as best as I could. We got 7 minutes out of it, so I mean, that's pretty impressive. And we'll go from here. And maybe one of the most controversial talking points of the night is the starting 11. So let's take a look at that. We had Jackson Lee in net, Aldair Sanchez, Aime Mabika, Grant Stoneman, Rio Hopgun, Jojea Quizera, Karifa Yao, Clay Holstad, Frank Nodarce, Albert Chico Dequa, and Maxi Rodriguez. Ryan, in your club collector mindset, were you starting 6 center backs in this game?
Well, luckily, Craig has some good limitations so that we can't do that, which I wish happened also in real life. But yeah, this one was a shock. I mean, I think the biggest shock, which we'll probably talk about, but the real kind of headline of the night was that Haraval and Amos were both on the injury report, last minute injuries there, which, absolutely huge bummer and huge, tough to two people who like almost play the same position. It's tough for them to fill in for each other when they're not there. But yeah, I thought this was really interesting. I know a lot of us were kind of saying they're almost like writing it out. Like, how do you, like, who is, it basically was like, one of these guys is going to play in the midfield. Who is it? Fatmob, if you can see it on the YouTube, has it here as Karifa Yao. We obviously knew that was not going to be the case, but we did see Grant Stoneman step into midfield. I did not like this, especially with the Sacramento team who has been struggling. They
played midweek.
They played midweek, and they must like. There were so many moments on the broadcast. I haven't watched the game live in a while, and like watching at home, there were so many moments where I'm like, if I had hair, I would have pulled it out, because like all they kept repeating was how long it's been since Sacramento has scored a goal, and it was like,
did you pull your beard out? Was that part of it?
This was because I went for a run and I wanted to die after, and I was like, this is it, summer's over. But yeah, I think it was like 800 minutes by the time they scored a goal against us, and it just was like this. And I've said it from screaming from the rooftops. The defense has been fine. We're averaging like 1 goal against all year, like per game. Like, the defense isn't the issue. Like, we did not need an extra defender. So I think the real talking points on like in terms of who was on the bench, who didn't start. One was Noah, who definitely has struggled this year. I have not shied away from saying that. But the other one to me that's interesting, especially for the position that we were trying to replace, was Temu not starting. He obviously got that run in the team to start the year, and I think that was controversial in of itself. Obviously, Ibarra was the person kind of making room for him there, which I think was difficult for some people to watch. And it is now looking back kind of weird that we started the season off with him, played him a ton, and then we kind of haven't seen him much since. So those would be kind of my big highlights there.
Yeah, big talking points there. Matt Hand said we needed a 6. Stoneman wasn't it. I think naturally Temu has to be it. I was with Kelly and the boys, and we stopped in the store. Big shout out to the store for some upgrades in there. You can actually buy some player kits now. They have the youth keeper kit, which Graham wore on 95-degree night or whatever it was, and just flopped around because the sleeves were a little too long. So some good options in the store. We'll say that. But as we made the corner, I actually came across Nate Ski talking to JJ and Harivao. So we talked. So I apologize. I'll apologize live on air right now, Nate Ski. I have not texted you that picture yet, but I got the picture of you and Zach and JJ. So I'll get that out to you as soon as I can. But we talked to Harivao, and he said, yeah, I picked up a knock in training this week. And obviously we saw him not being in the starting 11, which was a pretty big surprise. But looking at this 11 and looking at us, looking at Sacramento and both teams kind of, struggling to score, how Noah doesn't crack the starting 11 for this boggles my mind. I know he's been in a, pretty rough run of form, but like if you're going to play a team who can't score and you're going to put out 6 center backs, some questions need to be asked as far as this, and I saw a lot of posts that said Kano is out coached, and I will totally agree with that. I think Kano kind of got outplayed with this one. I think if you put in Temu for any one of those center backs, and for me, it's Stoneman. I know Stoneman just signed the extension. He started out as the captain, but I think he's kind of the least likely fit in all of this. I'll talk about Mbika later because I think he had an awful game. But I really like the way Rio Hope Gunn's been playing, and I'll give you a little bit more on him later. I think Aime's potential and what he can do to string passes along and kind of break lines, and the fact that we lack creativity is a really big asset to that back line. And I do think Karifi Yao in his return last week was phenomenal. I think he was pretty good, in this one. I don't think he was horrible. Frank's always going to make those Frank plays. I talk about it a lot in here that Frank's kind of one of those algorithm buster players where if you do the eye test versus the stat test, Frank will come in at a 7 to a 7.5 every game, but you'll watch the game and be like, how the hell did he get that? He's got to avoid some of those stupid plays that he gets himself involved with. But William saying in the chat last night, best performance for RI was Holstad, Nodarse, and Hope Gunn. I would take Frank out of that. And I was talking with, even Kelly agreed with me before this, that it was Clay and Rio as far as man of the match, and Rio would have been my man of the match, and we'll talk a little about that later.
Yep.
And I did talk to him kind of post game about that, so I'll share some of my thoughts on that conversation. But I just think against a team that's struggling to score so much, to start 6 center backs when you have I wouldn't really call Temu a 6. I'd call him more of an 8. He's more of a box-to-box guy. I don't think he's physical enough to really play a 6 in this type of league. But I know we'll get into that debate later as far as what needs to change for this team.
Yeah, just for a little behind the scenes. Sometimes we'll start talking about the game. Matt and I will start debating something in Discord. Like, wait, we got to save this for the pod.
Oh yeah. So it's good. I know some people have reached out, as far as takes that we share and be like, Matt, I totally disagree with you. Ryan was totally right on that one. I'd be like, yeah, I totally agreed with Ryan on that one. But for the sake of the podcast and the conversation, I'm devil's advocate in that guy because he doesn't have a beard anymore, especially tonight. So I'm going to come at him fully. But I just think that you got to start Noah. You got to hope there's some kind of, counterattack, and you have his threat kind of going on there. But, it was tough. I will also say the first half was tough. Lavenda was not present in the first half. Big shout out to Naren doing his job on the megaphone and absolutely going in there. I lit a chant. I don't do that. That's not what I do. But we heckled the shit out of Danny Vidiello, the Sacramento keeper, which was absolutely awesome. Because Naren had the best ginger beard in the stadium, so we had to let him know that. But I will say, before I let you share your take on that, Ryan, he looked back at us at least 5 to 10 times.
Of course, he was taking the time of his life. He was taking the fact that he did not get a yellow card this game for time wasting. He was time wasting from, from never mind. I thought he was about my beard. I was like, geez.
No, it's Danny. He's talking about Danny boy.
Yeah, I just could not believe he walked. He was time wasting from the first second of the game. That was insane.
So Jason was actually behind me and Naren. Naren and I were on the front rail, and we had Jason belly laughing. It was good stuff. We were just on Danny from the minute he walked out. He stayed and waited for the whole Sacramento team to depart the pitch at halftime, and I was there counting one. I got up to 37 before he left the pitch.
Yeah, that's good
so we just kept it going. Unfortunately, it kind of backfired on us, but. Matt Hand says the counting in the first half on every goal kick is silly. That is absolutely wrong, Matt Hands. That is I'm going to throw
I'm
this
not
out.
taking the other side on that one. That is terrible.
This goes me back to when I podcasted about my European team. I won't even name, but that's a shit take, Matt Hands. That is not good. You have to count on everyone, put some pressure on him. He followed up
time wasting. If he's not time wasting, then whatever. But he was time wasting so bad.
No, he followed up with save it for the second half. You count like that for time wasting. No one is time wasting from the first half. Danny Vitiello was time wasting in the first half.
I was counting.
It was outrageous. It was we got up to 20 multiple times in the first half, and he looked back at the supporter section. Like I said, 5 to 10 times. He was rattled by this. We were definitely in his head. Unfortunately, the best chance we had was that Chico near post thing.
I was gonna say, imagine if we had like a shot on target.
Yeah, like if we were actually progressing the ball and getting shots on goal, Danny would have conceded. Danny was a mess, absolute mess in this one. Matt Hands, I quote tweeted you earlier today and said I love you. I'm revoking that. That is not good.
Wow.
Our friend Scott from the UK says, no, the counting is good. Makes the ref more likely to find in your favor. It also puts pressure later in the match. You have to build up that foundation early on and get it going. And, hopefully it results in something later on. Obviously, it did not. Ryan's face is cold. That's why he keeps rubbing it. Exactly.
I can't believe I'm looking at the big issue here.
All right, so the best chance of the first half, I think, came from Jack Gurr for Sacramento. So we'll take a look at that as he broke down, and Jackson Lee made a pretty good save on this.
If you're looking for help on how to pay for college, look no further than RISLA. Been helping students and families for decades. RISLA.com to find out more. As Sac Republic are going to waltz their way through here, but Lee makes the stop.
So Jack Gurr thinks he's Isaac Anking rolling up the shorts like that, which clearly he does not have the thighs to do so. Jack Gurr, a former Aberdeen FC product, stayed on the SPFL for quite a bit and then made his way over to the USL. Really needed to bury that chance. That was a pretty poor execution and a pretty good save from Jackson on that one.
Yeah, so I do have to start. So I've talked in the past about I had a kind of a list of guys who I would have been like overjoyed for Rhode Island FC to sign. Maxey was very high on that list. Maybe second or maybe even first in this list was Jack Gurr. I think he's like absolutely unbelievable, and he filled a hole that I thought we had in our lineup, especially with Turnbull going. He's just an unbelievable attacking fullback, and you see a lot of that on display there. He's absolutely rapid. Can put in a cross. He can really do stuff on the offensive end, and I think that's something that even today RIFC could use a bit more of. But yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier. I think we disagreed a bit here, but I don't know that Aldair had his best game. I think he's been doing a bit more on the offensive end, but I think last game and then this one, I think he's been a little more suspect than we've seen on the defensive side. And I think right there, he clearly gets a little caught. And unfortunately, Jack Gurr just isn't one of those guys you can, let him get like a foot on you, because the minute he's like behind you, he's gone. So I think it's just another kind of tough moment for Aldair. I know he's played a lot this season. He's been one of our kind of unsung heroes, but definitely not his best play of the night.
So this conversation sparked from Ryan and I talking about, like, if you had to vote for like a player this season right now, who would you go with? And there's a lot of mediocre candidates, and I think Aldair. I brought it up that Aldair needed to at least be in the conversation. I think his availability, his ability to show up out there every week and kind of put in a shift. I'm hoping that the assist from North Carolina last week will result in more of that. But I think your point about him looking tired and playing a little bit more on the edge, it is kind of true. But we have nothing to spell him from that and, kind of give him rest. And we'll talk about this roster and what it absolutely, kind of looks like. I know a lot of people are going to say Koke in the chat right now. We're seeing a lot of it. But he's going to be out for at least a month. So, that's going to be a pretty deciding factor. I think, Clay won it last year and it's going to kind of look like that again. But
I honestly think like The way it's going right now, I wouldn't be shocked if like whoever the player of the season is whoever has an awesome, September, October.
Right. No, very, very true. But my conversation was I think Aldair has to be in the conversation for that, just because that he's been so available. He's put in a shift each and every match. Matt Hands, it's not Frank. I'm just gonna say that it's not Frank, the red card maestro. But first half, that was
Also,
the biggest.
Again, I get to sprinkle in a little stuff from the broadcast. The first like 15 minutes of the match, Frank got fouled like 7 times, and the announcer kept being like, "This like Frank has spent more time on the ground this evening, and he's someone who spends a lot of time just on the ground." Like she kept saying stuff like that. I was absolutely dying.
So we'll talk about the broadcast because you had that perspective in one particular play that I thought of as we get going. But Jason's right. Whoever can start scoring will really jumpstart that conversation. So. I worry about JJ coming back and just kind of having the weight of the world on his shoulders. And if there's one guy that can do it, like I would put my faith in him. I believe he told. Might have been McKenna, could have been Quadros. I might be mixing it up right now. That I got to get back as soon as possible because I can't watch that shit anymore. And for a player to say that post match and kind of get going there, that's what we want to see. That's what we want to hear. That was the best chance of the first half. That Jekker break. Chico had one that he tried going near post on old Danny Boy, but it was, I would say, a half chance at best. It was kind of more hoping for a rebound. But first half stats were 57% possession for RIFC to 43 for Sacramento. We outshot them 4-2. Both teams with one shot on target. Sacramento had the one big chance. We completed 205 passes at 83% to their 150 at 81%. 3 fouls committed for RIFC to 6 for Sac Republic. 2 corners to 1 for RIFC in favor. Outside of those 2 chances, obviously Sacramento with the big one, RIFC with the I would call it a half chance. The Chico one didn't count as a big chance on Fought Mob. Neither team was really going for it. Neither team was really looking to score. The ball was kind of played in the middle third of the pitch throughout this first half, and it was I would say if you were neutral watching this one, you'd be like, wow, this league fucking sucks.
Yeah, I mean it was clearly like 2 teams who are struggling. Like Sacramento hadn't scored in like 800 minutes. RIFC had barely scored in the past 800 minutes. So honestly, again, as someone with a migraine watching the game, it was kind of nice. Like it was very low key. Didn't get my blood pressure up too high. But yeah, it was one of those ones. I think I tweeted at halftime. Like it seemed like we were just like an adjustment or 2 away. Quite frankly, like Sacramento, they had a couple of chances, but it seemed like all of it was just because we were completely fucking around in the back with the ball. I couldn't believe how sloppy we were, especially playing 6 center backs back there. Maybe, having a actual extra midfielder to like pick the ball up off the center backs would have been helpful. But it was really a game where like we couldn't bother creating a chance. Like every time we would break, it would be like 3 guys against their 8 back there. And it was just like, okay, let's see if we can maybe get a shot off. And then again, their chances only came from us giving it away. So yeah, very boring half where you honestly halftime, if you were like, this game's going to end 0-0, I would have assumed that was the case.
Dare I say, and I bitch about it all the time when Clay's utilized in the back line, if Clay had been center back and that meant Temu in the midfield, I probably would have been fine. Just have an extra midfielder on there. Like this lineup made no sense.
The weird part about it is like, because Stoneman's the one who he was the poor. Yeah, I think Craig said it earlier in the chat of like they all just schlep. They drew straws and someone had to play midfield. I actually don't think he was like bad. Like he wasn't bad. Like I think of all the defenders on the pitch, he actually wasn't the worst of them. Again, I don't want to see this. I don't think any of this was good. I just am like, I can't like say that Stoneman was like the issue.
All right, so I'm gonna go on a little bit of a Stoneman rant right now. That's kind of been long coming for me. He started this one with the armband. He went down with what I think you would have to consider would probably be pretty serious injury. It looked non-contact. But for the first time in his RIFC career, he made it over to the supporter section, very much at the discretion of Koke. And we'll talk about that later on in High Five People. But a player that's worn the armband multiple times is always the first player down the tunnel into the locker room after matches. And that bothers me about Grant Stoneman and him getting the armband, him getting the contract extension. I would actually say he's my last pick center back to start a match out of the healthy ones we have outside of Cole Dewhurst, who I think will never see the pitch at RFC. But I don't like the way Stoneman plays in style with the rest of this team. Multiple games now, he's had the armband at Tidewater and has not made his way over to the supporter section, always the first player down the tunnel. And that's a bit of a bother for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked a bit about this team and we actually talked a lot about the defense, especially to start the year. And, in hindsight, it's kind of funny with all the problems we're having now. But I don't think he's covered himself in glory. And I think the thing I've always been bothered about with him is that he makes some of the mistakes that we get on Frank about or get on Karifa about. Yeah,
but he's 10 years older.
He's the veteran.
Yes.
He's the one who's supposed to be piecing it all together. When you see this team's having communication issues or things like that, you look to him to
but he's gone.
Together. He's gone. He's not. And it doesn't seem like he's the one, especially from the captain, wearing the captain's armband, that's kind of pulling everyone together. I mean, we've talked about it. I think Maxi's doing a lot of that work out there. I think Clay is kind of marshaling people around. I mean, you see Amos getting on people too. So yeah, it's frustrating. And then obviously there's like the fan side of things where we see so many of these players that are phenomenal with the fans, and
Clay will 45 minutes.
Yes.
45 minutes post-match signing autographs. I think it's to avoid going into the locker room and deal with the shit storm that they have to go through. But Jason says it, and I guess that's kind of the wording I'm looking for. The chat, I'm kind of over him. I know he's here. It's an extension. But I think Sarah said it on the last episode that, if we were going to move one of our 47 central defenders, Grant Stoneman might be the first one. You could think longevity and oh, you signed a player to a longer contract. Now he's worth more as far as the Euro model of doing things. But that's not how it really works in USL Championship. I think that's more of a, Kano likes him. He's here to stay. And I just think as far as what he offers versus Karifa versus Mabika versus Yao. I'm sorry, I said Yao, Nodarse. I think he's kind of, and even Rio, I'm going to wax poetically about Rio a little bit later in this one. But I think Grant's kind of at the bottom of that pecking order as far as, I wouldn't say so much stats and, what that looks like at the end of matches. But if you watch the eye test and watch what's done on the pitch, Grant's far down for me.
Yeah, you won't hear many arguments from me there.
All right, so 10 minutes in, Sacramento Republic got the scoring started, and we'll take a look at
season. And Nabil Ben Salah just making sure everyone is staying where they need to here. Now 5 in that Rhode Island wall. It is going to be Roro Lopez. Oh, it's spectacular. It's a Roro rocket into the back of the Rhode Island net. The captain's first goal in the USL Championship this season is gorgeous, and Sacramento have the lead in Pawtucket. Vintage Roro Lopez.
Couldn't have said it better, Sean. There was no doubt he was taking this one, but it was still a tall task. That Rhode Island wall had a lot of size to it, and the finesse to not only get it over that type of size, but dip it down underneath the crossbar. That's Roro Lopez at his best, set piece specialist.
First of all, I got a lot of takes on this one, so buckle up. Crack another bear if you need to. Roro is one of the lamest fucking nicknames you can absolutely have. You sound like a dog. It's absolutely terrible. I know Williams in the chat, he said that was a Messi-esque free kick in one of our post-match posts. That was not that great of a free kick. The biggest comical piece to this kick was the wall itself. And there's a lot to blame on this. We talked about Jackson having that great save in the first half, and everyone knows that I'm one of the biggest Jackson Lee fans on the planet, and I will rep Jackson, as every game as far as we can go. And, I do think the wall was far too central. They did not cover that far post enough. But Martin absolutely nailed it in the chat. Did the wall even jump? 2 players in that wall left the turf at Tidewater. An absolute disgusting display of defending from that wall. You have to jump there. You just have to. I think, one, starting with the wall, Jackson has to organize them a little bit better. I think they need to be a little bit further off to that far post if he's going to play so far on the near post. I think the positioning of the wall, and it almost seemed, because I was directly behind the goal when that happened, it almost seemed like there was a bit of miscommunication. It was Mabika was turned around, taking directions from Jackson. They went right, they went left, and they kind of had some whatever. But I don't think the wall was well positioned to begin with. But the fact that only 2 of them jumped was absolutely piss poor. Don says Jackson's defense setup is poor. I think he kind of put the players as to where he wanted them to be, but he needed to be further over to that side if the wall wasn't going to be. So he was glued to that, near post, or I guess he scored on near post based on where the ball was. Bunch of things there, but I don't think that was an absolute banger of a free kick. I think that was a failure to execute by the wall. I also think that the foul and the yellow card on Karifa Yao leading up to that was complete bullshit. Karifa slid in all ball. You and I were texting, and there's a picture of me texting on mid support that I can share out in this one, that the announcers continue to back these bullshit calls by these officials in this one. And I know it was that one as far as what we were talking about. But Martin, again, absolutely crushing it. It was a great tackle. Karifa slides in, gets all ball. I wish that was included in the goal highlight, and I probably should have just clipped it a little bit better. But not a foul, not a yellow card. And I will say, as far as how big of a Jackson fan I am, kind of leading up to that, my stomach sunk. I knew that was going to be a goal. I had zero confidence in us not conceding a goal there. I think some of this stuff starts to get mental with the players, but people will blame Jackson and his part of it. But the wall not jumping pissed me off on this one. Sorry, yeah. I give you a lot to unpack, but that was I had to go through like my whole spiel of points on this one.
I'm just like, I don't even know what to add because, well, I guess my bigger thing, and there are slides at some point in this show, and this is one of them. It's just our set piece defense is so diabolically bad this year. We are dead last or 4th class in the league. There's actually a couple teams doing worse so far. We're giving up half a goal a game on set pieces. Like, it is awful. And we were bad for a bit last year on this as well, but this has been all season. This has been an absolute issue for us. It started the first night in Charleston. We have 2 goals, and it has not stopped. I don't know what adjustments we're making as a team. Teams are looking dangerous on every, and it's not even just like if you're saying, okay, direct free kicks are an issue. We have to work on that. No, it is direct free kicks. It is corners. It is any set piece.
While you said corners, I think I sent it to you mid-match. We never target Ayman Mabika on corner kicks.
Well, that's the other half of it.
Dude is 6'7", and we don't put a ball anywhere near him. He's also 6'7", doesn't jump in that wall. So, if I'm coaching a team playing against Rhode Island FC, and I have a free kick anywhere near the box, I am putting it on goal. There's no question about it. There's no training ground shit. It's going on goal. That's it.
Yeah, I think I texted you guys last night, and I was like, everyone's talking about signing a striker. I think the number one thing RIFC needs to sign is a set piece coach. It is getting to a point where we cannot defend anything in a set piece, but we also just look there's no hope on anytime we get a corner or anything. I'm like, there's no way we're going to score. We're the only team who hasn't scored in the league on a corner or a set piece so far this season. And it just tactically doesn't look like there's any sort of idea on how we're going to do that, even though we have plenty of extremely tall people who should have no problem getting in the ball. We saw Frank score a bunch last season. I know Mabika could do it. We also know Yao has gotten the end of these things. We've seen Clay get on the end of some from the edge of the box when we do some tricky stuff. We're doing absolutely none of that this season. We're lofting the ball up in the middle, and half the time it's like Quizera or like Noah.
It's hit and hope. Yeah,
yeah.
like you're going at Quizera, you're going at Dequa. Like it's just such a bad look. And we chanted Chick-fil-A on every corner. Sarah just wants her chicken sandwich, guys.
And the shit that bothers me about it is like Kano clearly studies the game a lot. Like some of the things we're trying to do are like tactics that are like coming into the game more often. You're seeing them a lot in Europe. He's trying to do them. Are they working? Clearly not. But like he's clearly trying to mix and match and learn and do things. There's so much information about set pieces out there, and not to put my Arsenal hat on here, but Arsenal are very, very good at set pieces. There's so many YouTube videos about what they there goes Matt. There's so many YouTube videos on like what they're doing. And I'm like, why don't we try some of these things? Like just put like the biggest thing you can do in corners is put all the tall guys in one space and kick it there. Like that's like one tactic we could try instead of spacing them all around the box and trying to aim for maybe one. Stick them all in a bunch, hit it to them. Like it's not hard.
I think Matt's got a good twist on it too. Now there's way too many near post corners. I think a lot of our success came from middle of the goal to back post last season, and we're just not seeing that type of service. Jack Panayotu was a big part of our corner success. I will say that.
I don't know that
him for playing at Hartford now,
horrible.
But that's where I was going with that. We've had some good delivery. Aldair can put in a good ball. Maxi can put in a good ball. It's just not getting to the guys that it needs to get to, and it's extremely frustrating to watch. 6'7", 6'2", I would say, or 4. Frank is whatever he is, and the ball's going nowhere near those two guys. I think that's the just law of averages looking at it, watching it. Like if you kick it near one of those two guys, we're at least going to get a chance at goal. I spent all of last season talking about you need to shoot more to create spillage, and it finally happened at the end of the year. But same type of thing. You get a ball on one of the big guys' heads, it's going to get towards goal. Who knows what happens after that?
Yeah, to me, it's borderline strange with like the amount of decent sized bodies that we have to aim at, and how they're all they're not connecting. We're getting almost no shots on any of these set pieces. But also to the original point of how this all started, we're also giving up so many goals on set pieces.
Stupid fouls.
But saying that, but it's stupid fouls, but also like our defense on these things is just like very bad. So I don't know. It's Hugo does exist. He was in training this week.
I'll talk a little bit about why our defense is a little bad later on. But 8 minutes after this goal, we saw Sacramento pull ahead with the final goal and clinch their 2-0 victory on fucking firework night.
Turn to your leaders in those kinds of moments. Roro Lopez delivers to put Sacramento in front, and now they're on the front foot again here. Cicerone had space to run into, and Parano's unoccupied. 2-0, Sacramento. Well, not for the first time tonight. Rhode Island completely caught out on this near side, and you can't give players like Cicerone that much time and space. It's Parano's second goal of the season. And Sacramento are in dreamland here in Pawtucket. They're 2-0 up.
Well, the shape, the defensive discipline, all wrong for Rhode Island. See how far that Mabika has to step, and then see how far Hope Gund and Yao have now dropped back. And that miscommunication of one center back stepping, the other two keeping the line and keeping the depth available for Parano. That's ultimately what allows this Sac Republic team to just dice him up the other way. Parano finds himself in the most dangerous of spaces, running at the back line. Russell Cicerone occupies.
So I don't know if you can see it there, but the last player on the Sacramento Republic substitutes clapping. He was a Kevin Durant doppelganger, and I chirped him all night. KD, can I get your autograph? He gave me one good look, so he heard me for sure. But the announcer shit take on that one, blaming Rio for that. Mabika jogs, never closes down the angle, never really cuts.
I don't even know what he's doing that far up the pitch anyway.
Yeah. Knowing speed is not the factor with him. He's so far up, he gets caught out, he jogs in recovery and jogs in a straight line back versus on a diagonal and cutting that angle off, going to the keeper, forcing the attacking player out towards the corner. obviously how you teach center back defending there. But the other one is Teemu. Teemu is absolutely cooked on that one, walks back. The announcer on that one blames Rio for that, which is just an absolute understanding of ball level of absolutely zero. If you were to blame Rio on that, Rio makes a really good recovery run to get at least himself in the picture on that one. But Teemu
he also still has his man that he has to like kind of
right, and he's kind of in position to cover both right there. But Teemu is caught out beyond belief. He's jogging back. He's a substitute coming on in this one. No excuse for what he did on that play at all. Don says nice goal. No, Don, not a nice goal. Shit defending from RIFC, just not good. Matt Hands brings up my point that we'll get to. Well, I keep teasing this one, and I love it. Mbika is far up because there's no one shielding that back line. And we'll talk about the way we play, kind of a little bit off. But Andrew Quadros says this one is 70% Mbika, 30% Teemu. I think it's I'm like 60-40 on this one, maybe even 50-50, or maybe even reversing that. I think Teemu is more at fault than Mbika on this one.
I actually like really disagree on this one.
Okay.
I think the biggest issue.
So Joe Burns, this is not a just
it's not fake.
This is not fake. The real time debate here for you.
So I don't think so. I think the issue is Mbika doesn't pass the man off to Teemu. This is where I think this is a classic, like our communication sucks because as his man is running, because I don't know that Teemu sees the guy. To be clear, I think it's Teemu's fault eventually, but the initial part where the number 10 is also actually to pause really quick. There's a very, very funny picture from after the game of Mbika with number 10 on their team. I don't remember his name, who scored the goal, and they are like 2 feet different. It's very,
it was like Mbika with the Graham from last week.
Very, very funny. But
that was Verano.
But as you're covering that guy as a center back and you're starting to approach towards the midfield, he needs to say Teemu behind so that Teemu can then pick up the man.
But as a defensive midfielder, you have to read that and pick that up as well.
I just think our team as a whole, especially on the defensive end, could use a bit of talk. They should all just go sit in a circle and just talk to each other at next practice a little bit more, because I just think that's an easy shout to give your defender, your defensive midfielder, and then Teemu can cover there. Once the play happens, I think
we don't know that he didn't shout that. We don't have that audio, right? That very easily could have been a shout. But for me, I just think looking at Teemu not tracking back at all is incriminating.
Oh no, I think my other thing is I don't know that he's fast.
No, he's not. But like, just positioning.
Want to hear this one? I know that the chat's gonna love this one, but I actually think 10% might be a little. Like I think Frank actually was like. I didn't notice it the first time, but he's also kind of like caught in no man's land in his role where like I think he also potentially helped out.
Let's go back and I'll play the early on. I won't let it run the full clip, but let's kind of take a look at the build-up.
Turn to your leaders in those kinds of moments. Roro Lopez delivers to put Sacramento in front, and now they're on the front foot again here. Cicerone had space to run into, and Pirano's unoccupied.
So I see what you're saying with Frank there. Frank kind of saw the ball go through and then went to instant jog mode. But you can also see on Teemu there where he has that oh shit, like I didn't track that guy moment, because he went from kind of a jog to like a full fire sprint, like mid-run.
But like the first guy, Cicerone, who gets the initial pass, like he's just wide open with nobody on him either. So it's like the defense is like no one's marking anybody. Like Yao's not really marking anybody. Frank's not marking anybody. Like Mbika's like over marking his guy, and then everyone's trying to sprint back, and everyone loses the race except for Rio, who is doing his absolute best to try. So yeah, it's a classic. Like if you were coaching against RIFC, these are like the 2 goals I would tell you like you could get when you want them, because it's like just get a set piece or a corner. You're probably going to score on one of them in the game, and then you can easily pull their defense apart because they don't talk to each other.
For sure. Final stats on this one, Ryan. Second half was 70% possession for RIFC, 30 for Sac Republic, 2 shots apiece, 1 shot on target for RIFC, 2 for Sac Republic, 1 big chance each in the second half, 1 big chance missed for Rhode Island, 0 for Sac. 241 passes at 84% for Rhode Island FC to only 88 passes at 70% for Sac Republic. 4 fouls committed for RIFC to 5 for Sac Republic, 1 corner to none. They let us have the ball, and we did our thing and fucked around, and we're not able to, do anything with it. But it was kind of the blueprint last year, where it was RIFC is going to let you have the ball, and we're going to pounce on the counter, and we're not seeing that at all lately. So, what were your overall kind of big takeaways from this one?
Well, should we go with the slides?
You want to go slides?
Let's go slides. We do have slides, folks. We were just joshing around at the beginning of this, but yeah, I mean, I think my biggest
although we did enjoy your vacation pictures there. That was pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, so to me, this game really was just like the perfect encapsulation of this season so far. So first one, late injuries to key players. So I don't think anyone wants to hear about this more, but this team has been injured as hell. Like JJ Williams, Koke Vegas, Zachary Herbow, Karifa Yao, Daniel Rivera, Hugo Bacharach, Mark Ibarra, Eyes Genking have all spent significant time off this pitch, especially if you read the top row, and then Ibarra. Those are like 5 key players from our Eastern Conference Finals run last year. So to say that this is not an issue, I think would be underselling one of the key storylines of the season. So we got some injuries that we weren't expecting out of the way. Boom. First part of the season. Next up, we concede a goal from a set piece. I kind of spoiled this one, but like I said, we are conceding half a goal per game. It is 4th worst in the league in 2025. I don't know how that's possible. But then like this compared to last year, like last year we were very average in the league at about a quarter of a goal conceded per game on set pieces. But it's just very glaring at this point when it's like flip a coin. And if it's not this game, it's the next one that we're going to be giving up a goal from a set piece. Next up, we're gonna give up a goal while chasing the game. We've conceded first in 8 of the 14 games this season. 6 of those games ended in a shutout. And then last season, I think we already pulled this before, but last season we went behind in the first and 10 games. We were 2-4-4. So it's just a really bad place to be. And then once we're chasing, it just puts all the pressure in the world on the defense. I've said it 100 times. I'm trying to be very clear on this. I don't think the defense is the problem. They're giving up about a goal a game. That should be enough to win you some games in this league, or at least draw. But because the real problem here is we have absolutely zero offensive threat. So I was pulling all this together today, and I was like, the Tide Talk Discord was a sad place to be this morning. And I was like, I don't know that pulling this data is going to make me any happier. And it certainly did not. So just pulling up, like, some of these are like really glaring. So last year, goals per game, 1.62 per game. We were 3rd in the entire league. We're currently at 0.9, which is 22nd in the league in terms of goals. Shots per game, we are 11.8 this year, 12.8 last year, pretty even there. Shots on target, 4.5 to 4.6, about the same. Shots blocked, about the same. But here's where we start going, right? Big chances per game. We are at 1.6. We are 16th in the league this year. We were at 2.4 last year, which is 4th. Corners per game. Last year, we had about 5 corners per game. We're 5th in the league. We only get 3.7 this year, which is 17th. In goals per game from set pieces. Last year, 0.32. We were 4th in the league on goals from set pieces. This year, we have absolutely 0. I say 20th. That is not correct. That is just whatever last is at this point. So, yeah, I mean, quite frankly, just goals per game, big chances, and then anything from set pieces. Like, I think one thing you're saying is like, give RNFC the ball, and they're not going to do anything with it. I think one thing, because I think a lot about that in terms of like, okay, so then strategically, what do we do? Because we can't just say like, we don't want the ball either. Like, right? Like, you can't have a game where both teams just have the ball in the middle of the pitch and no one touches it. I think one thing I'm starting to think is our issue, and I don't, there's 0 data to put around this, but I think we just play, and I think
the eye test
this morning, the eye test. Yeah. I think we play really slow. We play much, much slower than last year. Part of it is we kind of
a lot of guys playing a lot of minutes.
A lot of guys playing a lot of minutes, but I think it's less that and more just like we're being really safe. And I think someone else said this in our.
Someone said it's always chat. And someone said it in the chat. It's always about. It was Don, our good friend Don Lindbergh. Most of our RIFC's passes are backwards. I'll put my Spurs hat on. So if you want to go off video on this one, Ryan, it's the Harry Winks approach. It's that sideways, backwards, safe pass. There is a time and a place to have a metronome midfielder in a squad, but not when it's every pass. And there's no link up in between the midfield and the attack.
Yeah, and so I think that's two things there. Like number one, I actually like a metronome midfielder, which is where I kind of differ with you guys. Where like I don't think the defensive midfielder has to be this like wrecking ball machine, but it all depends on like what you put around them. And I think the issue is when you play a game like that where it's kind of this metronomic and like you're trying to keep this like rhythm to the game, you also need a couple people that can hit the accelerator and all of a sudden kind of throw the other team off, because the whole point of playing that metronomic approach is that you actually lure the other team in so that you then can exploit something. We're not doing the second part of that. There's no exploiting happening. And we kind of play this thing where we're kind of, okay, we're going sideways and, backwards to the midfield. And then we go to the wings, but we go to the wings so slowly that it's very easy to double up on them. They don't get anything going. There's no overlaps happening. There's nothing going on there. They go back to the center backs. The center backs then go to the midfield and they kind of just keep playing. And we feel very comfortable playing between the midfielders and the center backs and then out to the wing. But we don't feel comfortable at all trying to break the lines. I think our best chance last night that I can remember was it was a give and go with Noah and I think Isaac right on the edge of the box. And it was the first time I was like, wait.
They both looked actually very good from coming on the subs.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wait, someone had the idea of like, let me sprint at the goal. Like, let me like make the other team uncomfortable. And we just don't do anything like that. So, guys, I mean, I think the issue is we talk a lot about the defense because when they make a mistake, it's so like glaring and it like hurts. But this is the issue. This is the issue. We are scoring less than a goal per game this year. That is far and away. And yes, JJ Williams is a huge part of that. But at the same time, I mean, there were issues when JJ was in the team and Godspeed Timmy. Godspeed Timmy. But yeah, it's just like the defense is because at the end of the day, like it can't be that the only way that we can pick up a point is that the defense gets a shutout and we hope for the best. Like that cannot be.
We hope for a last minute penalty.
Yeah. So like this is it. This is the end all be all. And I think like if I was coaching practice this week, this would be the thing I'd be trying to work on here.
All right, Ryan, let me caution you on this one and throw out a yellow card. You talk about, the defense being fine, and I get that. And you've talked about
could the defense
I'm coming back around on that. Yeah, I'm coming back around on that. Give me a sec. You talk about the metronome, kind of passing, metrics in there. If you have a player like Martin mentioned earlier in the chat, and it's too far for me to pull back, but I wanted to give Martin a question, or as Matt Hands tweeted about today, or as Matt Kerwin constantly talks about in the Tide Talk Discord, if you have a real disruptor 6 in there, like a Mark Ibarra, who can go in there and break up challenges, protect the back line, dump a pass off to Clay, who then Clay becomes your metronome to Maxi, and then Clay's able to advance into a further position. Now we're cooking offensively. Now we're advancing the ball because you have Ibarra breaking up a play, dumping off to Clay, Clay advancing to Maxi, Clay running in a hole. And those are the lines that we are failing to break as a team right now. There's no creativity within this team. Matt Hands got a lot of shit from some people on Twitter who don't really know ball about, the third striker thing, and we don't have a third striker. And, the third striker would 100% be nice right now. And we are dying and missing a third striker because Chico's not performing and there's no pressure on him to get any better because we have no one else to put up top in him, in his spot right now. But I think the biggest thing is Maxi and Clay are dropping so deep to get possession, and there's only so much they can do with it. There's only so far they can advance the ball going forward, that it's even when Amos is in. So I would say our best midfield trio so far is Amos, Maxi, and Clay. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just struggle because I like Caraval.
You're looking at
but I think
same. I like Harris. I like Caraval as well.
Let me give you a little data because I actually think I got a little stat that backs you up here. So this season we are 21st in the league in interceptions per match at 6.1 per match. Last year we were 6th in the league at 9 a match. So I think that's a little data to help you out there.
Mark, and you know me, I'm not a stat guy. I'm a full eye test guy, and that's why Ryan and I work things out so well. Ryan's the stat guy. I'm all about the emotion, the eyes of it. And Mark Ibarra, to even jump on my Spurs aspect of it is that Pierre-Emile Højbjerg type player that goes in, and I think there were a lot of Spurs podcasts calling him the cement mixer in the midfield because it's not pretty. He goes in and just kind of does things, but to have a player that goes in there and disrupts so much and is able to protect the back line, and when they do win a ball, if you can pick out a player like Clay on your first pass, Clay is going to do one of two things. He's going to advance that ball to Maxey, or he's going to break lines himself. And there's nobody to get Clay the ball. A lot of the times when Clay is getting the ball in the midfield right now, it's because he won it or he got an interception, whatever it is. And when he does that, he's got that level of work added on top of him where he has to then pick out someone else instead of somebody doing the dirty work behind him. And that was Mark Ibarra all last season. And I think Mark Ibarra's last season will go down as an unsung hero. He started early, he got benched, he came back in, and it was very... I think it was very evident of why he was a starter at the beginning of the season, because he came in, he disrupted, he advanced. It was Panayotou was there too, so he's advancing the ball to Clay to Panayotou. So Ibarra disrupting, getting the ball to Clay to then go to Maxey, in theory, should be as good as Clay to Panayotou. Like, we should have that same type of connection, that same type of cook-up. I think that it is the biggest glaring miss in this squad right now is that true number 6. I think you look at Clay, you look at Maxey, you look at Amos, you look at Zach, they are all number 8s. They are all kind of, more box-to-box guy. And it allows you to play the double pivot. No disrespect to Quadras and Timmy on that one. But I think when you have that one that's able to sit a little bit deeper and really play the anchor of the midfield pairing, it's much better to the style that we have, to the players that we have, and it's able to kind of unlock our attacking talent. Now, Kano said post-match, and I know Hands threw it in here as well, that our difference makers aren't making differences right now. And I think one of the biggest problems in this squad right now is Jose Quizera. Jose Quizera has been found out by opponents. He does not sit well on the left like he did last year. He does not sit well on the right. You and I debate that all the time, whether what side's the best for him. He goes out on international duty with Rwanda, comes back and, kind of 60 minutes and then back in. And it's a disruption to the squad, and it's no fault of his own. But I think that he is very much a one-trick pony that has been figured out. I don't think he's getting that good service from the, opposite side, and I talked about Al there, but I don't think he's beating his man like he was last year at all. He was get the ball at my feet, I'm going to get by you and get in a really good spot. So I think Quizera is a very big problem in his lack of productivity in this RIFC front.
Yeah, I think this goes. So number one,
I threw a lot at you there. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was on it.
No, the midfield one, I don't. I know that I don't disagree on it. I don't disagree at all. I do think, especially now, like thinking back to last season, what Ibarra did, I think the thing is, I think where I always keep coming back to is why can't Harabout do that? And then we also get Harabout's like athleticism as well on the ball.
Yeah.
And then you get kind of a bit of a rotation going where like him and Clay can kind of almost like seesaw, and you get a little bit more. Again, I would love to see it. Unfortunately, also Harabout is now injured too. But then to Quizera, I think him and Noah, I think, are the two that are really suffering from the kind of issues we're having, where we kind of have one play where we just kind of horseshoe around the center backs. We might go to the midfield, but they don't progress it. They go back to the center backs, and then, or they go out to Quizera and Noah on the wings, where they're either 1-on-1 or 2 or 1-on-2, and they really can't do much else out there because they either have to beat 1 or beat 2, and also I just don't think either of them are playing with much confidence right now. I think Noah to me is a bit more of the surprise, because I think Noah showed a bit more. I mean, the other side of it too is Noah didn't play a ton on the wing last year, which Quizera, I actually never was very sold on his ability to beat people 1-on-1. People talk, he's like, oh, he's so fast. I'm like, I actually don't think he has a very fast first step at all.
I don't think he's quick, but I think he's tricky on the ball.
Yeah. But then also, like, there was times last night, like, he got the ball and like there was one play. It was he got the ball like almost in the box, and he actually took a minute to like step on the ball and almost take a step back and then do something. And I was like, what? Just like either pass it, shoot, do something. You're in the box. Like you don't have all this time. Like, what are you doing, man? So I don't know. He's just really not playing well right now. And the fact that he, like, again, to these different makers, like him, Noah, I think even, Dequa, I know has been a large topic of conversation. I mean, really the only player from last season who's playing up to the standard that they set is like Clay, maybe Frank as well, but that's really it. I don't think, or maybe Yao too at this point, but I don't think Stoneman's playing as well. I don't think Jackson's playing as low. I don't think Quizaro's playing as well. Noah, any of the other players that we've had out there. So it's tough. It's really tough. And then on top of that, you compile the injuries and that we can't really change much right now because of who we have available. I think it's just really, really difficult.
Yeah, for sure. One point that I don't want to, kind of let slip in this one is, after the final whistle, the Defiant 1636 at the discretion of the club did not award a man of the match, which I think was fair. And the communication stemmed from the team, stemmed from the club, and said unless this thing is leveled or better, there will be no man of the match. And I think that's a good shout. Personally, I would have loved to have heard that come from Defiance rather than the club. As far as the way the narrative sits on that. But, we did see post-match when they all came over and kind of clapped the fans that Koke was the one that kind of sent them through and made them all come through and, kind of high five and hear it from the supporters. And I talked about how I would bring this up a little bit later, but when Rio Hope Gund came by, I gave him like an extra, kind of pull of the handshake, gave him the bro hug reaching down from the stands there. And I said, hey, man, you were leading man of the match. And if we were to give one, for me, it would have 100% been you. I think Rio was phenomenal on this one. I think he was very good. I think he does a lot of dirty work, a lot of cleanup work for a lot of the mistakes that we see kind of in that back line. Fatmom had only 3 players over 7 in this one. It was Rio, it was Clay, it was Frank. So I think somebody kind of nailed that spot on in their man of the match rating there. But Rio played all 90 minutes. He completed 68 of 79 passes at 86%, 99 total touches, had a successful dribble, 6 of 11 accurate long balls, which is a pretty nice, kind of piece to his game. He was 2 out of 2 out of his tackles won. He also had 2 headed clearances, 5 total clearances, 8 defensive actions, 10 recoveries, and was only dribbled past twice. He won 3 duels, and he only committed 1 foul. I think the 25-day contract to kind of being one of the cemented in, starters and best players has been a really good arc to watch for Rio Hope Gund. And I think out of the whole back line, he would be my first name on the team sheet every day.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the big surprises is seeing him out of the lineup the past couple matches, like here and there, because I'm totally with you at this point. Like I know we talked earlier about, players of the season, and especially when you compare to expectations where he wasn't on the team and then he was on a 25-day contract for a bit, like he has to be up there in terms of like exceeding expectations. And there's almost no one else who has. But yeah, I mean, it's compared to a lot of our defense that gives me, heart palpitations at times. Like the ball's on that side of the pitch and I'm like, great, like Rio's got it. Like I just couldn't be less worried. Like he's just very solid on the ball. He's just not.
Might as well be Rio Ferdinand back there, just kind of cleaning things up, clearing it out. Done. Like if I see Rio defending on the right flank, I know we're fine. I know, to the Mobika that goal that was given up, Mobika not ushering the player out to the corner flag. I know Rio is going to do that every single time.
Yeah, no, I think he just, again, he does exactly what you want from a defender. Like you almost like don't talk about him because of how just like nothing's happening over there, both good and bad, but good for the other team and bad for us. Like it's just very nice. And you have to just give him shout out. And that's what's hard in these matches where we come into it with like, I know we both were very frustrated and we both were saying before the show, we didn't really want to talk about this one. But we do have to remember that but like there are some players who do deserve some shout outs here. And I do think the one thing about this team at this point, it's tough and something to, at least I think at this point that like They are trying. Like, I don't think it's from a lack of effort out there, which is, if it was lack of effort, that's where I would have the biggest problem with this team. I just think it looks like a team without ideas that looks a little lost out there at this point.
For sure. But overall a pretty tough watch. I think one big decision, talking with Kelly about this one post match, is like, why did the drums stop? Why did the chairs stop? Like, what was that discretion like? I think it came from Irvin and Matt at like, we'll give you 90 minutes and nothing more, if that's the kind of effort we're going to see or play we're going to see. And to your point, Ryan, I don't think it was a lack of effort from everyone. I do think it was there on some players. We talk about the Mabika, the Temu run. We talk about the wall not jumping. There were definitely some moments where you don't see it. And I will say, I know a lot of people talked about, La Banda did show up late. It was a halftime performance. I think that we kind of got in Danny's head in the first half. He looked, like I said, he looked back 5-10 times. You got the drums banging in there, and maybe it's a little bit different. But I want to caution everyone and remind everyone that everyone who adds to the support, whether it's in La Banda, whether it's happening on the megaphone as a capo, whatever it is it's volunteer. People work, people have lives. It is what it is. So if you think you can help out, if you think you can do any better, reach out to the Defiance. They're always willing to kind of accept ideas and get that going forward. But I think that we support the team through thick and thin. I understand the not kind of clap, not kind of support drum chair after 90. I do get that part of it. But you're always going to back the team to the end. So it's kind of an interesting catch-22 of how you want to tackle that, how you want to handle that. Just wonder if you have any thoughts on, the way that all played out. And I will also add, before I kick it to you on this one, it did get ugly in the supporters group at the final time whistle. I know everyone has their right to support and cheer on this team in their own ways and kind of voice their frustration in certain ways. But, you got a lot of juniors in there, and as president of the juniors, I'll speak up on this part of it as well. You got a lot of people just kind of swearing at the players post match and like, fuck you, do you even care? And that people, like I said, people who will support in their own way, people will cheer and kind of voice frustration in their own way. But to kind of cuss them out, I think is a little kind of crossing the line there. I think that we're not at the Premier League, we're not, in Liga and La Liga, any of those, top European leagues where these guys are making millions and millions of dollars, and, they can kind of go on and avoid that and block that out. Like, most of these guys are making what most of these people in the stands are making on some kind of level and pretty much across the board. So if you're going to go and kind of cuss people out, and I've said it on here before, if you're going to cuss them out and support, call for their jobs and call for their livelihoods, you're not really a fan of the club, and you're not really a fan of this team. And, obviously it's fair to criticize, and it's fair to criticize in a respectful way, but to cuss players out at final time and to cuss players out on social media, on Twitter Spaces, on posts, on whatever it is not the right way of going about it. The effort's there. The execution is not currently. That's the big piece. So back your team, cheer your team on. If you're going to kind of voice your frustrations, temper it, find a way to do it that's, supportive in nature. Ryan muted.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really well said. I think it's also another thing of like, a lot of these guys are kids, and
Right.
they're in their early 20s, and you're, I'm in my mid 30s, and like, I think the big thing that always goes back to is like, what is that going to help? Do you think that, telling XYZ player to go F themselves is really the thing that's going to get them moving? Because you talk to any of these guys after the games, like they're absolutely gutted. Like they're not happy.
And they're awesome. They're awesome to talk
They're
to.
awesome. They're awesome people, but they're also not happy with what's going on. They're not like, and they will look you in the eyes and say, we are trying to figure this out. And Listen, like, am I happy with the performances right now? Absolutely not. Do I think there's a lot more in this team that they can get out of it? Absolutely. But like, cussing them out, swearing at them, that's not what's going to get the performances out of them. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to not criticize or not do anything. I'm not going to say that, but
No.
there, again, you said it perfectly. There is a line, and I just, genuinely don't know what people like by saying to fire this person or this person needs to be sold or all this stuff. Like, again, number one, you're not watching the Premier League. Like, that's not how this league works. That's not how it works at all. And also, I just don't see what that, like, how do you, like, we are
what's the
supporters.
net gain from that? Yeah, what's the
we
net
are
gain
supporters for a reason. Like, we are here to support the team. Do I think that means like we should be, taken advantage of, like, what Hartford's dealing with? No, but like, again, I just don't get I don't see what the outcome you're expecting when you do that, especially when you talk to any single one of these guys and they are trying their absolute asses off. Like,
and they own it.
Yeah,
they own it.
Again, they're one, like, we've heard from people, and we know, as like, Kano has a no dickhead policy with this team, and this is, like, at the end of the day, a very good group that I, on the, like, personally, like, think, like, I'm very proud of this team. Like,
extremely.
They're not performing. They know that, but they're a good group that is trying hard. And like, that's like, again, the moment that I would have issue with this team is if I think they weren't trying. There's absolutely zero part of this where there's an effort issue. It is purely like tactical, structural, what they're doing out there. Like, they're just not doing the thing they need to do to score goals, but they are trying. They're probably, if we had distance metrics, they're probably running just as much as any other team. They're pressing their asses off. They are upset. They are not happy. They want more. Like, again, talk to these people. Like, they're great guys. And to cuss them out is quite frankly bullshit. And also, if you're like fucking 45 years old cussing a 20-year-old out, like, get a fucking life.
Unless it's the ref, that's fair. You can cuss the USL Championship refs out all day on this one.
It's actually
I do want to go back to. Yeah, I do want to go back to this comment from Sarah in the chat, especially with the kids around. We want to show them how to respectfully critique the team, not berate the players. And
quite frankly, also, like,
if you give me 1 sec. If you follow me on Twitter at all, I'm at war with a certain member of the RIFC. I'll put in air quotes community, and the way he does his spaces and the way he calls out. And I don't share his stuff on here because I just quite frankly think it's the wrong way of going about it, and it's not what we're about. It's not what Tide Talk's about. It's not what our community is about, and I don't think that person speaks for the greater good of the community. Never has anything positive to say. It's always a negative. You have to always compliment sandwich it. At least you got to throw out at least 2 positives in there. People just want to be divisive, and they want to kind of attack this team at its core. But we're all very much, and Kevin saying in the chat, it's not me. It's not Kevin. It is totally not Kevin. It's not FQB. So I will give him that credit, but we've got a large community of like 30 somethings, in this team. And a lot of us have kids. Some don't. It's okay, Ryan. We'll get there, and you can babysit Graham on a weekend. But, we want to also teach and inspire the next generation of RIFC supporters, RIFC fans, on how to back their club, how to do it correctly. That's not hopping on social media and saying you should blow these people up into the sun, you should fire this person, fire that person. It's like, they might have had a bad game, but like, this is what might have done it. Be constructive in your criticism. When they do something well, share that too. But a lot of that is not done on RIFC social media, and quite frankly, that's bullshit. I know a lot of people kind of sympathize for the person that does that, and I used to kind of go to bat for that, but like, Tide has changed. It's you got to back the club, you got to absolutely go in there and support them. But we will, as Timmy says, get that live stream of Ryan babysitting Graham. I think that would be absolutely awesome. But just remember,
mostly because
it's not just about us. Yeah, it's not just about us. It's about kind of inspiring those kids as well to, support their team and kind of grow this. Because one thing that has gone under the radar amidst this, last month or so of lackluster performances, despite the North Carolina win, attendance has not been great. And you can say kind of bluntly as that, there's a reason that teams across the world do these multicolored seating in their stadium, and it's to kind of hide the empty seats. And I think we heard that it was 6,000 people in the door last night. I think that was inflated. I would say 3.5 to 4K tops in the stadium last night. Not a good turnout on a hot summer night. Fireworks, schools out, all that. And I think that's kind of the community aspect that Rhode Island FC was trying to capitalize and bring more people in. They had an opportunity to give a lot of tickets out to a lot of Pawtucket school kids on that last week of school, and I think that was a little limited. But attendance has to get better, and that has to, I think, start with play on the pitch and the fandom as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back, like, I think someone just said in the chat, but like more like it's just like if we're gonna be supporters, if you're only going to be a supporter when the team is good, you're just a fair weather fan. Like, this is the time that these are the times you also need to be a supporter and get behind the team and try to rally the troops. And again, I'm not saying don't be critical. We were critical tonight. We will be critical in the future. Like,
we're said to not be. We are said to be the not critical kind.
Yeah, whatever. But like, if there's ever a time to be critical, if there's ever a time to be supportive, it's now. And again, I just will keep going back to this point. If the team wasn't trying, if the team didn't care, go fucking crazy. But like, they're trying their ass off, and like, let's get behind the boys and try to push through. Hey, we're in the middle of a homestand. There's 2 more matches at home. Let's show them some love. Let's pick up some points, and they can figure this out. The season isn't over. There's still a long, long way to go. And I there's a lot of doom and gloom in the fandom, rightfully so. I don't feel good right now about what's happening on the pitch, but I think the kind of infighting in the fandom, the people getting frustrated with each other, the people getting frustrated with the team, like, we're a family, we're a community here. Come on.
That's from a very small, minuscule percent of the population that's kind of all they do. And I think that's the hard part of it,
Yep. So, I mean, listen, it starts with us. It starts at home. It starts with the pretzel people who put on A+ performance last night, I heard. So, like, let's get behind the team. Let's start rallying here, and come on, up the tide.
Matt Jean says a source said through the turnstiles was around 7K. I think that's propaganda. I think that
there's
is
no way. I think my tickets were counted and I was not there.
There's no way. I think I think what was kind of said earlier is we outed a kind of a soccer mind as far as team president and brought in a business guy as far as team president. I think that's a little tilt on that side, and that's a conversation to be had at a further date, but there was in no way, shape, or form anywhere close to 7,000. I believe the Revs game was listed at 7,000 as well. And I think if you look at that game in comparison to last night, not even fucking close. We will close it out.
Breaking news in the chat. This is A+ news.
Am I missing it? Who am I pulling up?
Chuck.
Oh, Chuck says, regardless, I'm pumped to be coming out for the game against Hartford on 7/19. We'll pumped to see you, Chuck. We'll have to order some more Tide Talk stickers so we can hook you up with there as well. We got a lot of fuck yeah Chucks in there as well. But we'll end it on your takes and sharing those out. And we'll start with the Defiant 1636 Discord. Jim wrote in his good, bad, and ugly as good was the weather, bad flat performance, ugly starting 5 center backs. It was kind of 6, I guess, or 6 defenders. RIFC and 3, sign a striker. Yes, definitely agree with you there. But we also need a healthy 6. I will always stand on that hill and die in that grave.
Do you think we're going to sign a striker?
I feel like after last night, it kind of forces the hand of we need to do something. We need to sign somebody. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a striker. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more of a creative midfielder. I'd be fine with that. I also wouldn't be surprised if it's more of an attacking left winger. Or left or right for that matter. I think one of those 3 positions, kind of could go in. We talked with Ibarra, and he's kind of looking like he's week to week, and it fluctuates, and it goes back, and he gets on the report. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 6. Like, I know we have so many midfielders, but I would not be surprised if our next signing is not a striker. You?
Yeah, I agree. I actually would be the most shocked person here if we actually sign.
If it's actually, yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Because I think Chano thinks we have enough puzzle. There's quite frankly, I also if you were the finance person at the club and kind of was like, hey, I have this guy, another midfielder. It's like, no, you're done. You're cut off from midfielders.
Yeah.
Like
Midfielders
obviously
and
there's
defenders
nuance
are.
midfield, and I think you're right, but
I think a winger might be the more sexy or applicable presentation to the board, if you will.
yeah, I would like one of the Arsenal podcasts I should listen to talks about this like a strike winger, like a forward winger, like a striker winger, where kind of like if you watch the Premier League, this guy from Bournemouth who Spurs might be signing, Semenyo, kind of is like that taller, bigger winger who can also play more towards the
He's a stud.
Striker. Yeah, he's really, really good. But kind of that bigger winger, that could be an interesting type signing who maybe could play a little bit both.
And I know a lot of the fan base calls out and cries out for a striker that can kind of bag goals at will. If they're doing that at that level and that kind of pace, their chances are they're not playing in the USL Championship. I think that's another kind of temper of expectations that needs to occur. There's no real out and out striker in this league that really kind of grabs the game by the balls.
Cal Jennings.
Yeah, well, he gets good service though. He gets good service. I think you have to.
I think I could score goals in the Charleston team.
Yeah. I think that's an absolutely big piece of it. But moving forward with RIFC and 3 and good, bad, and ugly, we got Mike M in the RI Defiance 1636 Discord. Completely outcoached was his RIFC and 3. His good was the fireworks. The fireworks were pretty good. Bad was team chemistry. No link-up play to speak of. Ugly, the starting 11. Who starts 5 center backs against a team that played midweek and hasn't scored in 3 matches? Very good question, Mike. Leo had good substitutes like Isaac, Noah, and Joe, showing there's still glimmers of chemistry. Bad, proving statistics aren't everything by getting thumped in a game, or we were on paper better in duels and overall in defending. Ugly, set pieces are our kryptonite on both ends. And his RIFC in 3 was 1 rinsed, reverted. As far as the stat piece, I do want to kind of tackle that. There was somebody who wrote, like, it was almost like we were playing 2 FOTMOB stats for this game. Players don't fucking see that in live stream. It's not on their heads.
I gotta be honest.
It's not like Ready Player One where it's like on their dashboard. Like, come on, like,
and also like
a lot of bad takes coming on this one.
People are frustrated. That was funny. I know there's a big pushback in like data and analytics in soccer, but I don't think people are playing the game to try to like up their score on that. Like they do all want to win, and they're only using it because they think it can get them there. So yeah, that was very funny.
No, very big misconception.
Just to be clear, like we don't like this whole like the possession thing. Kano clearly has like his game model and the way he thinks about the sport is that is the way to win games. It's not working clearly, but like I think that is his idea of how this sport works, and you can argue with it, you can debate it, but like I don't think we're doing it because we think it's like we win the FOTMOB game. I think he thinks it's because it's the correct way to play, and quite frankly, it's the way that I actually also think is the correct way to play. It just isn't working.
I think it's a very sound way to play as long as you have the players to play that style and back it up.
I think we need to switch it as a team. I think Kano clearly has a way he thinks that the sport works. So I don't know. I think it's just to say it's only about like pumping up the numbers is I think downplaying a lot of people's thinking on this game. And like quite frankly, like our coaching staff who like has way more experience than any of us in the sport.
We are just glorified armchair pundits, if you will. As far as this,
I'm not qualified to do that job either.
I think Jackson Lee's dad, Paul, our good friend, and subscriber to the pod, actually nailed it. His wife said something to him, and he said, like, no, like these guys are just punters. They just talk about it. Like, it's what they do. Like, and that's spot on. That's what we do. Like, you work for a startup. I'm a teacher. Like, we like soccer. We talk soccer. It is what it is. Like. But we'll get back to that. Tyler had as good as pudding shots. I did witness Tyler go back for multiple rounds of pudding shots. Very good. Bad, another home loss. Ugly, no identity. RIFC in 3. This is embarrassing. Andrew Quadros had RIFC in 3. This team stinks. Good. The weather and the fireworks. That's literally it. I was actually telling people before this one, it was fucking hot. I would have taken a 10-minute rain shower in that one. Absolutely. I know people will string me out for that one. His bad was our home record. Ugly 6 defenders in the starting 11. Mo Brown said, not sure the people who should be able to see and understand can actually do that. And it seems that we are opting to make lots of safe passes, short bumps that keep possession, and boost passing percentage. Whereas the connecting to progress and attacking spaces, we definitely touched upon a lot of that throughout this one. Our guy, Timmy Sclafani, I actually had a Timmy Sclafani in the parking lot. Although I did not see him, I had a chopped Italian sandwich, which could very much be.
I was like, where are we going with this?
Timmy on a good day. His good was the pretzel stand. His man of the match performance. My God, what a bounce back from the quote undercooked allegations last week. I'm interested to see how Matt Jean will tackle this on his Twitter Spaces, and see if the pretzel stand did live up across the board. I do have to come back to what I said about the pretzel stand and Quadros being in line next to Kelly, and she only getting bites and him getting full pretzels. Kelly has a tree nut allergy, and for those of you allergenists out there, the pretzels at Tidewater Landing may contain coconut powder or coconut oil or something, some kind of derivative out there. So if you have a tree nut allergy, make sure you read the fine print on the pretzel stand. So furthering the debate about the Great Pretzel debacle that we have going on.
No debate. It's the best stand in the building.
I still don't know. Timmy's bad was never once felt like we were going to get back into the game after going down 2-0, no fight at all. I actually felt like we were going to get back in it, or at least maybe get one after going down 2-0, and Isaac and Noah came on. But after 1-0 and before the subs, I was very kind of deflated. As ugly as we've been shut out 4 of the 7 matches at Tidewater, and as RIFC in 3 is I'm really sad. So we make fun of the Fortress Hartford claims all the time, but Hartford, maybe on a bit of a revival as we kind of continue to stink it up at home. Sarah had her good as pretzels. The kids had fun and loved the fireworks. Bad the view from 115. I'm spoiled with the bird's eye view up in the 200s and barely watched the game. The ugly was the game overall, lack of energy. The whole thing was a mess. Ryan, you're loving those 205s, right?
What was that?
Yeah, he's not even paying attention. Fuck him. Andrew,
sorry, I'm mixing up in the chat over here.
Andrew Hill says it doesn't have the energy of the 1-teens, but 205 provides such a glorious view of the game. So
yes,
the 205 view is being glazed and not hazed here on Tide Talk.
Check out the next double pivot, folks.
That's it. We've got a bunch more, on the Discord, and as far as time, we'll cut it to the Twitter as well. I put my RFC in 3 with a Paul Wall meme. We talking ugly, and it was definitely ugly there. So that was my Canva piece for the night. FQB had Unserious Soccer Club and Figure It Out as his RIFC in 3. His goods were the weather, fireworks, and pretzel. His bad and ugly. Enough is enough. How do you bring back 11 of the players who won the Eastern Conference Finals and find yourself playing this poor? Need a third striker option and a good one now, and that's just one problem. So definitely agree with him that it's not the only problem. It is just one of the problems kind of moving forward with this team. We'll take a look.
That's weird. I saw a lot of people talking about this. We brought back the players from the team, and it's just like looking at the team last night. I think half the team wasn't with us last year. I think at least. Yeah. So I just think that talking point. It's an interesting one. It's just like I think we have to temper it with. There's a lot of those guys who got us there are injured. One of the big ones, Morris Duggan, is back with his home club. So
I'm gonna put a pause on the the social takes, and thank you to everyone who wrote out. And if you want to kind of see what the greater community had, go look at all of our socials at Tide Talk RI, and you can read them all. But I want to end it with this question, Ryan, because we did semi talk about it off air. Was winning the Eastern Conference Finals last season in our first season a long-term detriment for this club?
No.
I disagree with you. I think it was very much a long-term detriment to this club from the fact that You're looking at a fan base who was obviously very rabid with this team and consumed all the merchandise, all of the social media interaction, embraced us as a community, embraced other podcasts as a community. And, they go out, they win the Eastern Conference. They're 90 minutes away from winning the league championship. What else do you do with that squad but bring them all back, or as many as you can as possible? Right?
That's fair.
They're forever going to be beloved and be bestoried within this club, within this fan base, within the support as those guys that got us there in year one. You brought a lot of them back. You brought in a few new players. You lost a couple players on loan. As far as like those who would kind of count and bring it forward, you sold one or two that maybe looking back, you might have really wanted in this squad. But I do think that them winning the conference championship in year one is a detriment as far as success. It kind of puts the basement at a really high level as far as what this team can do. You fired your team president due to attendance numbers, and soccer was kind of picking up, and you brought in someone to kind of go as far as, bringing in better attendance numbers, and the soccer's really fallen off, and the attendance numbers haven't really gone that good so far. We're struggling at home. You've got a lot of these guys back. I think it's a tough spot, and it's no one to blame for that. I just think that, when you look at a roster and not being able to turn it over because of the success they had in year one and because of the fan base and because of how you look at things, kind of the soccer piece was kind of lost on it.
Yeah. Well, so just thinking about this whole, like, the issue with bringing the roster back, like all the guys they signed, I don't know that there's any of them that there was none that they announced I was like mad about, or that I was like, oh, I wouldn't have brought that guy back. I think they cut a lot of the people. If last year we did a summary of all of our podcasts throughout the year, I think the biggest thing we would have said is our biggest problem is chance creation. And we brought in one of the best attacking midfielders in the USL. So they tried to fix that issue in a way. Is the squad still a bit of a mess in terms of balance? Yes, we've literally talked about this a lot.
Totally.
We talked about this a lot. But I struggle with saying it's a detriment to long-term success. I actually don't hate that it set the bar really high for this team. I think that's fantastic. I want this team to always be striving for that, which I think they would have either.
I think a caveat to that, I don't think it set the bar really high, but it set the ceiling. I'm sorry, it set the basement really high as far as like what looks like a bad season to this team if they're not able to duplicate that and kind of go forward with that.
Yeah.
You look at the USL Championship and a lot of the names that moved this year, you would say that maybe we got the second best name to kind of move on the market. But if you can go out and kind of say you had to, would you have said goodbye to Noah to bring in Cal Jennings?
Not this offseason, I wouldn't. That's the other problem.
I totally would have. But
the last 3 months of the season, also that's a little mean to ask me personally, but I mean, but those last 3 months.
And Andrew, I agree. The bar needs to be high, but the ceiling the floor needs to also be a little bit lower.
But basically what I'm saying is, and the other thing we don't know is what's Noah making versus what's Cal Jennings making. There's all sorts of types of things. But I mean, with what we saw of Noah the last 3 months of the season, I mean, we had Brett Johnson on this show talking about Noah going to Europe and playing all over the place. Clearly he put a great memory in a lot of our heads. I also just don't think we're getting the Noah. We're not seeing Noah of last year right now. We're seeing a very different player. Mm-hmm. Listen, Cal Jennings is a phenomenal player, and I would love to have him, especially right now. But I also it's just one of those things. I don't know if that was actually even ever an option because all the +1s and all the nonsense. So I get
totally spitballing on that.
What you're saying is fair. I think the biggest thing is that we didn't take a beat to look at this roster and say, can we actually play the style that Kana wants to play long term? Do we have the pieces we need, even just on a depth level? We have it. I think the issue is we had a lot of guys we liked that we thought were good, but they all might not have actually fit together really well in a way. And we didn't make the necessary moves to adjust that, I think is where I would say. And I think it's left us short in some really weird ways this season.
For sure. Timmy nailed it. They're in their big boy stadium now, charging big boy money for everything.
Yes.
So you've got to kind of put foot to pedal and, back it up for that. We've gone a lot longer than we normally do here on Side Talk. But Ryan, any final thoughts you want to share before we close this one out?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we are just as frustrated as probably most of you or all of you listening. Hopefully the team can figure something out, try something new, do something to get this moving next Friday night against Portland. But yeah, at the end of the day, hey, criticism's fair. Just keep it above board is what I think was the big takeaway here.
For sure, criticism fair, and go out and do it in a professional or just kind of respectful manner. But if you see people kind of doing it above and beyond like that, call them out on their bullshit. That's the way I am. You follow me on Twitter, you know what it is. And just kind of call people on their bullshit and make the fan base the best as what it is. William says, thanks, Matt and Ryan. Great latest live podcast episode. Until next time, because I'll be returning to Rhode Island on 8/9. Well, Ryan's got fireworks. Holy shit. He wasn't there last night.
Fireworks night 2 nights in a row, baby.
Wow, that was fucking cool. Good shit, man. Yeah, I don't know. You don't want to make slides on your phone, but you made fireworks on it, I guess. But Timmy says, up the tides, lads. Let's back the team. That's it. Call people out on their bullshit that aren't doing it the right way and make the supportive as best they can. That'll wrap things up for this one. Remember, Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily social media content. Click that link in this episode description to follow all of our accounts. I've been your host, Matt, for my good friend Ryan and his fireworks. And
I don't know how I'm doing this.
I don't know what's happening. Ryan's got Cal Jennings Jedi mind tricks going on back there. But we'll see you next time. Thanks again for joining. And as always, up the tide.
Up the tide.